Hello and welcome back to the Sell Like You podcast with me, Harriet Meller. And we are coming off the back of a very exciting webinar that we've put together, a first in a series. It's actually the first webinar we have run solo as a business. When I first started, it was just me. And I used to run masterminds and webinars and all these different cohorts of things helping small businesses alongside the corporate clients and the industry specialties that I was still running as well, because I really wanted to help small businesses, and we still certainly support them, but we do that in more free versions to help them build out their processes and a funnel and things like that. But yeah, it's been a really exciting journey building out the webinar, but that will have just gone live today and you'll be able to access it. So I will pop a link in the show notes for you to grab the recording if you didn't register, or if you didn't know it was happening, or if you just missed out. But aside from that, it's February. We are 1 month in and it feels like it's almost like that practice month, especially in Australia. And I don't know what the other states are like from a living perspective, but I know that in Perth, everything just stops in kind of mid-December to the end of Jan. It's very nice. It's very chill, but we have sales to get. We have a job to do. We are here to hit the ground running. For us, February is one of our busiest months of the year. It's the time when people are getting back into the swing of things. They've got the whole year ahead. For us, we've got financial year halfway through. So there's a few kind of chunky parts for our year, depending on what our clients need. But we're very excited to have got through January and be ready to kick off and really get stuck in with our clients and get things moving. Now, I've shared a video previously where I share or talk through how I generated over $10 million in revenue as a salesperson in IT, selling cyber services, hardware, software, etc. And it was one of our most downloaded videos last year. I will also put a link to the show notes for that as well, if you would like to access that and check that out. A component of what I talked about in that video is around how I hit 25 meetings a week. Now, that feels like a lot. I get asked a lot around, what's the expectations? What should I be doing as a salesperson? But more so, I get asked from sales leaders and managers and businesses around what should we be expecting from our teams? Now, I know there's so many people out there that don't have KPIs or goals around it. We absolutely should have them. It just sets expectations and also manages the certainty around having those ongoing conversations. Now, you might have a very strong sales team, you might be a very strong salesperson, and you don't need those KPIs. But what happens to the rest of the business is that if we are resting on the fact that we've got this great network and we're not necessarily growing it, but we're leveraging it, awesome. But there's so many more people out there that don't know that we exist, that don't know enough about us, and that aren't in that funnel or in that pipeline of conversation to be able to learn more about us and what we're doing as well. So I highly recommend there still being a new business element to meetings. But I wanted to share in today's episode about how I hit that 25 meetings per week consistently. Now, my diary was like a military operation. It was, this is what we're doing, when we're doing it, how we're doing it. I would run my calls. First thing, I would do my car chats. Now, I've started doing these again, but my car chats were where I would ring over East. Now, being in Perth, we are 2, sometimes 3 hours behind the Eastern states, which is crazy when we're all in the same country. But hey ho, can't change that. And I used to use it to my benefit. So I would hop in the car. It would take me half an hour, let's say, to get into the office. I would use that 30 minutes to ring 2 vendors, and I'd have my car chats, and I would feedback on what happened, my meetings in the afternoon. If it was relevant to them, I'd ask questions. I'd find out what else is going on. Now, that supported me in achieving those results for meetings per week, because it meant that I was using my time really effectively. Because when you're doing 25 meetings a week, you don't have much time for anything else. So how do you build the meetings? How do you do the admin? How do you run, follow-ups and proposals, etc.? Now, I didn't create proposals. I had a team, I had a procurement manager that did that. So I did get some support throughout the business, really processes. But once I got the proposal back, I would put it into the system and then I would deliver it. So I handled everything start to finish. But new business meetings, the first 6 months, my calendar was chocker with new opportunities, Monday to Friday, 25 meetings per week. Now, as I said, I did my car chats. That meant I could have my conversations with my vendors. So if you are working in a position, or if you've got a team that are working in a position where you've got multiple touch points and we need to keep people updated, there are definitely systems for that. There's deal registration processes. There's obviously email, which is going to be the best way. But the phone calls I just found gave me inspiration and ideas of who to be calling and following up. And I found that the more I spoke to my vendors and distributors, the more I was able to have really strong conversations. Now, I would say the number one piece for me of building out those meetings was a high volume of calls. Now, I would team up email with LinkedIn, with phone call, still what I teach today. A multi-channel outreach still works very, very effectively today, and would highly recommend that being the approach. Now, I would then focus on niche target. So I would utilize replication of ideal clients. It wasn't called that back then. It was just the way I did it. But replication of ideal clients is the approach that I would take to kick off. And that would give me a viewpoint where I could see, who we were reaching out to, why we were reaching out to them, what past success we had had, and so on and so forth. And back then I didn't have Lusha. I didn't have Jumbo. I didn't have Sales Navigator. Now I use LinkedIn today. I have never used Sales Navigator. I have a lot of clients that use Sales Navigator. For me, I don't love it. I think there's better systems out there. And I feel like using LinkedIn for an organic outreach and plugging those connections into Lusha, which is a plugin, or something similar, ZoomInfo, Apollo, all of those, being able to then build out a cadence and a process is really, really effective, as well as knowing that you can grab their mobile phone and email address through those platforms. Whereas Sales Navigator, you have to have both, and Sales Navigator is expensive. So for me, I would rather not have Sales Navigator, but instead use some other platforms. But we want to build a hyper targeted prospect list based on the industry. Now, you can build lists in Sales Navigator, you can build lists in Lusha, you can build lists in Apollo, you can build lists on your own. I used to have a spreadsheet. And that would help me do it. And then once I'd got a response, I would plug them into my CRM as I got contact details and as I then really built them out. Now, remember when I did 25 meetings, I didn't have systems like this. So I would be using, LinkedIn. I'd be using all of my connections and network to gather information and contact details, because that was the only way to do it. Now, I've talked about some applications in here. As I mentioned, Jumbo. Now, Jumbo is a tool which is available now. We can actually give you access with 25 free credits. And what it does, that helps you do the replication of ideal clients in a way that will find clients and opportunities and prospects based on industry, as well as size, as well as other key components. So if you're seeing great success in local government, but they have to be a certain size or buy a certain technology, or, in certain areas, you can get right down into suburbs and not just states and cities. So I'll pop a link in the show notes, and I'm hoping that we're going to have the founder and creator of Jumbo on the podcast soon, and we can share more in terms of how that works. But for now, if you're building a prospect list, happy to give you your first 25 credits, and you are good to go. Now, make sure that's in the show notes. Now, when it comes to outreach, we want to make sure that we're crafting a personalized, impactful outreach. It needs to be focused on them, what success you've seen in the industry, why them, why you, what do you know, what value can you add? All too often, communication is long. It's about you. It's not about them. And that is the missing piece. And we are going out giving this whole, overview of who we are and what we do and how we do it, and links and PDFs, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just not effective. So for me, getting meetings was really to the point about how we're seeing success in your industry, what we've done, what problems we're overcoming, and how we can help you do step one. Or I would love to explore this. I'd love to introduce you to help you do this. It's making it about them and not about us. Now, finally, I would say it's about consistency of follow-up, because if we send one email and then maybe a second email and do nothing else, we're not going to see success. It's not going to happen. And so we need to find reasons to follow up. And so this comes back to the first point of contact, not being full of us and what we do and how we help and PDFs and links, but instead more about how you can help. And if you stagger that out, you can send the PDF on email 2. You can invite them to a webinar on email 3. You can share a use case. You can pick up the phone. You can send them a LinkedIn connection. You can spread that out, slow it down, ease it in, give the information around what it is that you do, how you help, and let them gently follow along your process, because we're not in a rush. They are about building relationships. It's a consultative sell. They're not going to buy on the first meeting or the first phone call. So we need to nurture them and build that relationship. Think about the long journey. Think about the long-term gain, not just the quick win, the quick meeting, the quick update. It's about that longer term opportunity, and we need to focus on that. And so the final wrap up, I guess I would say, for these 25 meetings per week is being organized. It's having your calendar full. It's having a pipeline of opportunities, and it's looking 4 to 6 weeks out. If you're looking for next week or the week after, you're constantly going to be chasing your tail. Now, if somebody super hot and super, ideal in your world comes in, then yeah, you're going to shuffle a few things. Yeah, you're going to squeeze something in. Yeah, you're going to work a longer day. Otherwise, it's about being smarter with how you follow up. It's about being smarter with your communication. And so for me, I'm going to say develop a structured outreach plan. Get your calendar in order. Use tools like Jumbo and Lucia. Lead with value, but be consistent. Remember, it takes 7 to 15 touch points to convert a cold lead. 7, 15. So don't give up after number 1. Keep going. And if you want more of this, then definitely check out the full video on how I generated over $10 million in annual sales. I love sharing all of this content with you. I love helping you. Do let me know if this helped you. Do let me know if you've got questions. I tailor all of my topics every single week, just like this one, based on the most frequently asked questions we get through LinkedIn, through YouTube, and then through our clients as well. Let me know what your target is for meetings. It doesn't have to be 25. And if it's 5 right now, maybe up it to 7. Maybe up it to 10. But remember, whatever you build in those early days will help you accelerate your results in the future. Happy selling.